Chapter 8. The next morning I was up bright and early, mostly because I had sold the curtains. I poured Lucy a bowl of kitty chow, yet another way society discriminated against skunks. No skunk chow. And left my girl crunching and swishing her tail while I went to answer the avocado green wall phone in the kitchen, it tringling the same as it did when I was a child. I smiled at that, and because I knew who it had to be, I called my sister first thing, even though I knew she was probably in the shower. It never took her long to call back. "I heard your message," Melody said as soon as I lifted the receiver. "You're not selling. What'd you do? Did you get a loan?" "Stop talking and I'll tell you," I said. She was 5 years younger. In times like these, it showed. One of Grandma's friends came into some money. She loaned me a little. Anonymously, I stressed. I still have to come up with the rest. Luckily, my sister was too focused on the problem to grill me on the particulars. "But we have time." She whooshed out of breath. "I'll have another 100 by the end of the week." "You don't need to give me your money," I told her. She needed it. Melody worked part-time at the Sugarland Public Library. She'd also taken a part-time waitressing job at the diner Laura Lee managed, but she rarely made enough to cover student loans and rent. I'd offered to let her move back here. But she was locked into a lease. Melody was naturally curious and smart, but none of her almost degrees had quite panned out, and she'd need to go back to school eventually. "I'm so sorry I caused this," she said, her voice racked with guilt. "It's not your fault," I said. It was the truth. "You saved me from a lot worse." "I'm coming by with the chicken after work," she said, in the ultimate Southern subject change, as if food really could fix things. "That sounds good," I told her. She had to get to the library, so we signed off. Meanwhile, I get busy with my breakfast and my day. Frankie shimmered into view next to me while I stood at the stove, cooking zesty pork-flavored ramen noodles in my old Girl Scout camp hut. I'd hoped he'd be the type to sleep in, or at least leave me to my thoughts. "I called my lawyer," I told him, taking the pot of noodles off the burner. "Tim Carruthers didn't come cheap, but he was good. He's going to use the money from last night to file another appeal. It wouldn't help in the long run, but it would buy us time." "This is how you celebrate." The ghost gave a delicate sniff as if he were some type of French chef. He retreated through the kitchen island and to the other side of the room. "Stinks." It wasn't the raspberry smoothie I preferred, or the roast chicken I get tonight, but I had to get used to a new standard now. "Leave me alone, I'm hungry," I said, and I didn't feel like picante beef noodles, which had been my other choice. The dollar store tended to stock the less popular flavors. I poured the noodles and the water into a plastic bowl and mixed in the flavor packet. Frankie watched with barely contained revulsion. "Okay, so you got them off your back for now." "But we're still in trouble." How sad is it that I like the word we? My family meant well, but I still felt ashamed I had dragged them into this. And Laura Lee had responsibilities of her own. It was nice to have someone in my corner who didn't have to be there. I placed my breakfast on the kitchen island and gave myself a mental shake. It wouldn't do any good to feel sorry for myself. Meanwhile, the mobster couldn't take his eyes off the noodles swirling in my bowl. "You're seriously gonna eat that?" "Frankie?" It was one thing to have someone care, and quite another to endure his pestering. Was it too much to ask that one thing in my life be peaceful, even if it was only breakfast? I turned and located the bag with his urn. It was on the counter exactly where I'd left it last night. "What are you doing?" he demanded as I hefted it over my shoulder and made for the door. "Fish and house guests stink after a few days. This is my home, not yours," I reminded him as I placed his urn on the back porch swing. "You can stay outside." "Now, if that don't beat all. Southern hospitality sure has changed in the last 90 years, he said, laying on thick as if he thought I'd feel guilty and change my mind. "Because you grounded me, babe. That's as good as making me family." I gave him the hairy eyeball, and he threw up his hands. "Fine. You know what? I'll humor you." He vaporized into a fine mist, although I noticed the volume of his voice didn't go down a bit. I could use some shut-eye anyway. With a small sigh, I headed back inside, the screen door flapping closed behind me. On second thought, I bolted the oak door as well, as if it would keep out a ghost. Less than a year ago, my life had been so simple. I had a nice little freelance design business going. I was marrying a man I thought I loved, and then poof, ghost in my kitchen and ramen for breakfast. The smell of broth filled the kitchen. It was quite homey, actually, soothing. I rinsed out my pot and placed it in the dishwasher. Then I made my way back to the kitchen island. I'd figure a way out of this mess. I'd never been the type to give up before. I scooped up a bite of noodles, blew in my spoon, and was about to taste it when a knock sounded at my back door. I was seriously going to lock Frankie's urn in the car this time and hope he didn't go for a joyride. I set aside my spoon, wiped my hands on my pink-flowered sundress, and stalked for the door, ready to give that ghost a piece of my mind. But it wasn't Frankie, it was worse. Ellis Wydell stood on my porch. My pulse sped up and my palms grew damp. He'd better not be here to arrest me. On second look, I was relieved to see he hadn't worn his police uniform. Instead, he had on a gray t-shirt with the police department baseball team logo on it. It revealed what his uniform hid last night, a nice set of arms and shoulders wide as a barn. I placed a hand on my hip. "Just so you know, I didn't break any new laws since last night. A girl's got to sleep sometime." "Can I come in?" he asked, glancing at my neighbor's house down the way. "I'd rather not be seen at your place." Charming. No wonder he'd use the back door. "I'd offer you a seat, but there isn't one." It would be nice to hear him apologize for our rude start. Instead, he strolled right into my kitchen like he... owned the place. He turned to face me. "How'd you know where to find Vernon Hale's ladder?" He looked at me like he expected an answer. "Fine, nobody would believe him anyway." "Your uncle told me himself," I admitted. "We had a conversation last night when I was sitting in the backseat of your car, like he was a real person. It would be nice if his nephew started treating me like one." He shook his head as if there had to be some other explanation. "That's impossible." "Yes," I agreed. "Only lately I've expanded my view of what's possible." He reached into the pocket of his jeans and pulled out a lighter shaped like a whiskey flask. "This is it. It was under the porch at his old house." "What would you look at that?" Hale said. "It would be there," and it was. I held my hand out and Ellis gave it to me. The silver shone and it had the letters VRH etched on one side. Alice had obviously given it a polish after he found it. "This is real nice," I told him. "I wish we could get it back to your uncle. That way he wouldn't always be counting on people like Frankie for a light." Nobody wanted to deal with that for eternity. Alice regarded me for a long moment. "Can you get it back to him, I mean?" he asked, as if he couldn't quite believe he was saying the words. I sighed, not wanting to get his hopes up. "I don't know." I was surprised when I'd been able to pull Josephine's locket out of the ghostly realm, and I had no idea how I did it, much less how to send things the other way. He began pacing, and part of me started to wonder why he'd even come. It was clear he wasn't ready to believe me, not really, and I had no doubt my presence made him uncomfortable. "How does he look?" Alice asked quietly. Damn. Right when I was getting used to him being a judgmental jerk, he had to go and say something to make me feel sorry for him. "Your uncle is strong," I said, searching for the right words. "You'd never even know he was hurt." I couldn't help but grin. With that buzz cut and that attitude, he could be a drill sergeant. The corners of Alice's mouth turned up, and at the moment when I thought he might share my smile, he winced. He straightened, his expression devastatingly calm, and his tone firm. "I know you don't like me." It was true, and it wasn't. As long as we're being honest, I think it's more that you don't like me. A muscle in his jaw jumped as he clenched it, and I can agree to that. Dandy. "So, are we finished here? Last night was enough. I didn't need round 2 with this man." He shoved his hands into his pockets and stared at me hard. "I need your help." Of all the... He could have knocked me over with a feather. "You need my help?" Unbelievable. I crossed my arms over my chest. I didn't know if he was nervy or just plain nuts. I mean, he didn't even want to be seen in my house. He took one step toward me, then another, like a man on a mission. "I need you to do a job." A sinking feeling invaded my insides. "You're not talking about graphic design, are you?" He stopped a few feet in front of me, serious as sin. "I need you to clear out a ghost." "But you don't believe in ghosts." "It doesn't matter what I believe." He held up his hands in a form of surrender. "Look, I don't know what you do or how you see them." He clenched his fingers and brought them down to his sides. "I don't even want to know." Okay. He had this all wrong. The first thing is that I don't clear out ghosts. I'm not Bill Murray with a proton pack and a ghost trap. I ran a hand through my hair, thinking about how much I wanted to explain. People in this town thought I was crazy enough. I didn't need to go telling Officer Waddell about my recent spiritual troubles. I accidentally washed someone's ashes into my rose bushes. Well, into the soil around my rose bushes, I corrected. Anyway, that allowed me to see him, and then he did something that made me be able to see other ghosts. I could tell by the expression on Alice's face I'd said too much. I'd appreciate it if it didn't get around town. He shook his head slowly. "Nobody would believe me." I'd sure deny it. I was enough of a pariah as it was. I didn't want to be the whacked out nut job with my own personal ghost. Sure, people in the South called those individuals colorful, but everyone knew it was just a nice word for batshit crazy. "Look," he said in an obvious attempt to sugarcoat something I probably didn't want to hear, but then he couldn't quite figure out how to spin it, so he said it plain. I don't even want to get around that I'm talking to you. You sure know how to ask for a favor, I said tartly. Can you blame me? He shot back. Maybe. Maybe not, since he'd been so corrupted by that brother of his. I knew how convincing Bo could be. I leaned up against my kitchen island and tried not to think about my breakfast getting cold. Tell me your problem, I'll see what I can do. He gave a sharp nod. I'm in the middle of renovating a piece of property I bought a few years ago, the one up on Wilson's Creek Road. I'd heard of the place. It used to be an old distillery. He'd bought it with someone, an uncle. My heart gave a little squeeze. You and your Uncle Hale bought it together, didn't you? It made more sense now. He stood stock still. We were renovating the carriage house into a restaurant. Then we planned to start in on the other buildings. It was going to be our project, something for him to do when he retired. Instead, he'd been killed in the line of duty. Ellis cleared his throat. I didn't feel much like going out there in the year or so after. I remembered. You left town there for a while, didn't you? He nodded. Now I'm back. I'm investing in the place again. I'm taking it building by building. Eventually it'll have festivals and events, and a whole line of beers aged in reclaimed whiskey barrels. Well, that sounds really nice, I said. We don't have many modern hangouts like that around town, and it would be a great place for people to gather. Only I've run into a problem, he said. Apparently not in the mood for pleasantries. Vandals destroyed the walk-in freezer. After that, I put in video surveillance. He gave me a hard look. 2 nights ago, the serving line was destroyed, literally taken apart and smashed. That's terrible, I whispered, disturbed for him and also by the hard way he looked at me. He made it so that I almost felt like confessing, even though I was quite sure I wasn't guilty. He braced his hands on the kitchen counter next to me. Nobody did it. Surveillance shows it coming apart, but no human caused the damage. It took me a moment to grasp his meaning. I gasped when I did. You have a vandal ghost. His hands whitened where he pressed them against the counter. I'll pay you to get rid of it or them or whatever it is doing this, and I want you to keep it between us. No problem on the second request. As for the first one, I didn't know how far my abilities went, especially since I had borrowed them from Frankie. Besides, I wasn't a ghost hunter. I'd lucked out with Josephine. My limbs felt light and my mind raced. How much are you willing to spend? He huffed out a laugh. How much is the going rate for ghost extermination? More like relocation, I said, as if I knew what I was talking about. Actually, I did in a way. I wasn't going to hurt a spirit merely because it caused a few problems. I was sure we could come to a reasonable agreement that suited Alice's needs. I mean, look at poor jilted Josephine. We'd had a lovely conversation. When she'd come down out of her noose. What are you thinking? Alice asked. Will you do it? I blew out a breath. I don't know. Look, he said, I don't know who else to call. I mean, if it's not you, it may have to be the Psychic Friends Network or something. That's not funny, I told him. I wasn't a freak or a swindler, but I was a girl in a bind. I didn't know how I could turn this down, not with my house on the line. If I do this, it'll cost you. Name your price, he said flatly. I was going to ask him for what I needed. What did I have to lose? I want $20,000, I said in a rush. He didn't even think about it. Done, he said. I about fell over. Don't even think about asking for more, he warned. I know what you owe my brother. I figured you'd ask as much. I'm not a gold-digging manipulator. No matter what the rumor mongers say, I gritted out. And by rights, I shouldn't owe your brother anything. He's not the victim here. I was at the reception, honey. Ellis smirked. After he'd forced me to stand up at the altar, Bo called and invited me to our reception. The whole town was there, he said, enjoying our 5-course sit-down dinner, dancing to the 10-piece band his mother had insisted we hire, consoling him, assuring him he was better off. He sent me photos of the cake. I snapped. That he would play the victim, that he would humiliate me like that after what he'd done, well, maybe I should claim temporary insanity, or maybe it was the most sane thing I'd done in my life. But I drove straight to the Hamilton Hotel, marched right into my almost reception, and plastered Bo's face straight into our almost wedding cake in front of his family, God, and about 200 of Sugarland's most admired citizens. Ellis's mouth twisted into a wry grin. The best part was when you tried to run away and knocked over the gift table instead. I did not run, I said hotly. There was frosting on the floor, and I slipped. Do you want to review the tape? It's all recorded, Ellis reminded me slyly. My mom tried to upload it onto YouTube. You're lucky she can barely turn the computer on. I wouldn't put it past her to take lessons. She'd love to humiliate me. Again. Your mother had 4 videographers, flew them in from Atlanta. How insane is that? He rested his hands on the counter behind him. I didn't hear you complaining. That's because she wouldn't let me get a word in edgewise. She assured me she'd pay for the whole crazy show if I let her have her way, and I'm about to lose my house because I believed her. His brows shot up. So now you're blaming my mother. Yes, I was. She's the one who stumped me with the bill. Because you ran out on the groom. Because he cheated on me with 3 different women. He even admitted it. I left out the part about him attacking Melody. No reason to bring her into this. The thunder drained from him. What? Jesus. I crossed my arms over my chest, clutching my elbows. So, now you know. He still didn't look 100% convinced. If this is true, you need to defend yourself. Against your mother, I asked. Mrs. Leland Herworth Waddell III would relish any excuse to go after me, and she had the money and the power to do it. He knew how she was. I could tell by the way his jaw tightened and released. I don't know what to say. I hadn't either. I hadn't exactly planned this. Let's not say anything, I told him. I didn't want his pity or his sympathy. Surprised me enough to see a crack in the Waddell family armor. I'll try to help you with your problem, and then we can go back to hating each other. You will help me, he corrected. Both of us glad to be on more familiar terms. There's no trying. It has to be done. Let's leave off the pep talk, Officer Perfect. He took a slow breath as he steered us onto more solid ground. That kitchen equipment cost me more than you're asking. You clear out my vandal ghosts, every damn one of them, and you've earned the 20 grand. right then, this was a business arrangement, pure and simple. He pulled a set of folded papers out of his back pocket. I took the liberty of drawing up an agreement. Before he'd asked. Confident much, I murmured, as he spread it out on my counter, but I signed it, so did he. I just hoped I could pull it off. I hadn't asked for Frankie's help yet. Even if I got it, I didn't know what we were up against. If I failed, which I very well might, Ellis would most likely go back to thinking I was some sort of con artist. And his family would love exploiting the tale of a very long, failed ghostbuster. Either way, I'd have to take another harrowing trip into a haunted building. Don't think about that part. Meet me at the Wilson's Creek property tonight at 8, Ellis said, folding the agreement and sliding it back into his pocket. I'll be there, I said, all business. I felt a part of him give a little as I escorted him out. Or perhaps that was wishful thinking. Don't tell us all, he warned. Of course not, I said. Well, just the one.